What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Carter Scotland Allen. This is my film channel where I talk anything and everything film related. Today we're going through everything that I watched in the month of February. Starting off the month, I watched Jackie Brown for the very first time, a really good Tarantino film that's not a surprise. This was my first time watching Jackie Brown. I really enjoyed it. Definitely will watch it again. I will most definitely purchase it. I'll probably end up purchasing all of Tarantino's films at some point, even though I don't love his entire catalog. I would say Hateful Eight is probably my least favorite film of his, but they're all enjoyable. Jackie Brown is probably going to end up being one of my favorites, not top 3, but probably top 5 by the time that his career is complete. After that, I'll combine these two, watched The Incredibles, followed up with The Incredibles 2. The Incredibles is perfect. I don't really have anything more to say about that hasn't already been said. It is one of the best films ever made, one of the best animated films ever made, and one of the best superhero films ever made. It's also basically the Fantastic Four, and better than any Fantastic Four film we've gotten so far. After that, obviously, Incredibles 2. This is my first time watching this since it released in 2018, and I gotta say, it still does not hold up. I hated this film when it came out. I was really upset with the direction that they were going. I thought Screenslaver was, it was okay, and I still kind of feel that way. It felt too much like the original film. I really was disappointed with how they handled the Underminer, just because after 14 years or whatever of hype, I wanted more of the Underminer. He was barely in the film. So after that, I'll combine most of these. If I find any of these that I remember much about, I'll point something out. But these are all of the short films, basically from the early 1900s that I've watched, with The Black Imp, Rescued by Rover, The Inventor, Crazy Brains, and His Wonderful Airship, New York Subway, The Living Playing Cards, The Hairdresser, Rip's Dream, The Capture of Roma, Coney Island at Night, The Nightmare or The Night Before Christmas, Consequences of Feminism, The Merry Frolics of Satan, The Witch, The Motorist or The Motorist, Dream of a Rarebit Fiend, The Dancing Pig, Phantasmagory, Frankenstein from 1910. That was absolutely weird. After that, Valentine for the very first time. I enjoyed this film. It's not my favorite, but it was really well done. Didn't fully expect the twist. I did have an idea of, who it was going to be, who the killer is going to be, but there could have been some more Valentine-themed kills. I thought the kills for what they were cool, but if this were made today, it would have been much more over the top in the kills, and I honestly would have appreciated that. But Valentine, fun one-time watch. Don't know if I need to watch it again, but I definitely wouldn't be opposed to watching it again. Okay, and one of the 2024 releases of this year is Argylle. Was not a fan. I'm a huge Matthew Vaughn fan. I love Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass is still my favorite film that Matthew Vaughn has ever done. Kick-Ass 1 and 2, even though he didn't direct that, I still really enjoy Kick-Ass 2. It's a fun sequel. Not great, but it is fun. Kick-Ass 1 and the first Kingsman, I think, are really fantastic films. I don't think that this film was made for me. It was definitely, it was PG-13, a lot more campy, fun, vibrant tone. I probably would have loved this if I were 10 or 11 or 12, just because it's actiony enough for a 10 or 11-year-old, but still fun enough and campy enough. I'm not really making sense, just because I don't have much to say about Argylle that's really positive. But again, it's not a film that was made for me. I won't be rewatching it. I will say my biggest complaint about the film is its runtime. It ran way too long. It was 2 hours and 20 minutes, I believe. That's 20 minutes shorter than the newest Dune film, which is insane to me. I won't watch this film again. It probably could have been an hour and 20 minutes versus in 2 hours and 20 minutes. They seriously could have trimmed off an hour. All right, we got The Look-See, Terror Train, Blood Rage. They're all fine. It's just me going through different horror films, trying to come up with my own ideas, and none of these really sat with me. After that, we got The Zone of Interest. I'm rewatching, or I guess catching up on the Oscar-nominated films that I haven't seen before the Oscars, and Zone of Interest was one of them. I got to see this in theaters, and I was by myself. I really enjoyed it. The cinematography is fantastic. The sound design. Okay, I babbled on for a little bit about Zone of Interest. Next up, we got Dark Harvest from 2023. I really enjoyed the creature of Sawtooth Jack and the lore that they built around him and why these people could not leave their town. It was really interesting. I don't think it fully clicked with me in the end, but it was, again, really enjoyable. Don't think I'll need to watch it again, but again, fun one-time watch. After that, got The Conference from 2023, another horror film that I don't think I need to see again. The kills were fine. The killer reveal, it was okay. Rewatched Prey, and this was my girlfriend's first time watching the film. She loved it, and this was her first Predator film. I knew she wasn't going to like the Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator, the original Predator. I just knew it wasn't her thing. You know, that's more action than anything. It does have horror elements, and I mean, Prey is still action too, but it just had a story that resonated with her much more than big buff dudes in the woods shooting at an alien. So after that, Spontaneous. This was a wild film from 2020. This is directed by Brian Duffield, who also directed No One Will Save You from 2023, which was one of my top 10 films of the year. I love No One Will Save You. As for Spontaneous, again, it's bizarre concept. I love the concept. Even if certain things in the film don't work for me, the concept alone and the execution of that is enjoyable enough that you're not going to care about the little nitpicks that I personally had here and there. It was very, very fun, gross, and they didn't really show too much. Yeah, there's people exploding, but even with that being said, there's no body parts. It's just a lot of fake blood. Okay, and back to the Oscar-nominated films that I had to catch up on. We have American Fiction starring Jeffrey Wright. This film was wild. I had no idea what the synopsis was. I hadn't seen a trailer. I just knew Jeffrey Wright was in a film and I wanted to see it, so I went and saw American Fiction. This actually ended up really, really high on my ranking of all 110 feature-length films that I saw in 2023, so be sure to go check that video out. It's about 35 minutes long, and it's got my entire ranking of every film that I saw in 2023. But American Fiction, or I guess I didn't see it in 2023. I saw it in February, finished my ranking, and posted that video out. Anyways, American Fiction is fantastic. The casting, the visuals, I will say this now, I said it again in my ranking, but the visuals feels almost like a documentary in some aspects, and just feels very, very raw. And this is a story that didn't need to look the way that it did, but I felt like it did really help it. Next up, we got Madam Web, and I don't really want to talk about this one because I don't want to be mean, but yeah, this film was not good. I watched it on my phone, and by watched it, I skimmed through. I probably made it through about 10 minutes total of footage from the film, of actually sitting through it and paying attention. Already within the first 2 minutes, I was like, nope, this is not it. So I just started skimming. Oh, a little bit of action here and there. Nope, not worth it. Skimming. Yeah, I'm done with the Sony superhero universe. I was never into it. I saw Venom at a $3 theater and was still hesitant on spending $3 on a ticket to see Venom. And I did not like Venom. I did not see Venom 2 in theaters. I did not see Morbius. I think that's all of the Sony films. But yeah, I did not like Madam Web. This makes my expectations for Kraven the Hunter even worse than they already were. So yeah, moving on. To switch up the mood, but we still kept with superheroes, we watched Blue Beetle. This was just something that we wanted to put on and just kind of zone out. And I think Blue Beetle is a perfect film to do that with. Not because it's bad, not because it's overly simple, but it is simple and it just works. It's a fun, family-friendly superhero film that, yeah, there's things that you've definitely seen before. Things that, it feels like DC's Iron Man in some ways, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just a fun, newish take on a hero that we haven't seen before on the big screen, and I thought it really worked. After that, I watched Unwelcome. I actually just watched this simply so that I could listen to Dead Meat's podcast episode on it. I heard that they were going on some weird tangent in their podcast, and I was like, okay, well, if I want to hear what they're talking about, I got to know which movie they're talking about, so I went and watched Unwelcome the night before it came out. And yeah, it's cool. The cast is fine. Visually, it looks like a fairy tale. It doesn't totally work with me from the visual standpoint. I think, and actually Dead Meat, they pointed it out too, that it looks like a fairy tale and almost looks fake, which is definitely what they were going for. But for me personally, it just didn't totally work. I thought the design of the goblins, ghouls, gnomes, whatever you want to call them, they were really, really creepy, fun. Not scary, but they were like gremlins in a way, where they're gross, but they're fun to look at. Also, there's a kill with a shotgun that's really, really gnarly. It's only on screen for like 2 seconds, maybe 2 seconds max, but it's gnarly. I give it two thumbs up. After that, watched Atlantis: The Lost Empire. This is the first time that I had seen this film since I was probably a kid. Maybe since it came out. It came out in 2001. I probably saw it around 2002, 3, 4, or 5. And I'm just thinking before I was around 7 or 8 years old. Sometime around then. So I haven't seen it in nearly 20 years. And this is way, way better than I hear anybody giving it credit for. It's really, really good. And I also think that Mole from Atlantis is the Underminer from The Incredibles. It makes total sense, and I actually kind of think I want to do a video explaining that theory. There's other people that have thought of that theory as well, but I actually came up with some of my own ideas that I was pretty proud of. And I truly do think that Mole is the Underminer featured in The Incredibles. But I'll explain that in a different video. Alright, we're going to cruise through these next ones. We got As Seen Through a Telescope, Cyrano de Bergerac, The Haunted Curiosity Shop, and Stop Thief. Next up, I rewatched Thanksgiving. I didn't love Thanksgiving when I first saw it in theaters. I was really, really excited for it. I don't know what it is that just didn't click with me. I don't feel like I fully connected with the characters, so that's definitely one aspect of the film that just irked me away from it. I love most of the kills, except there's one kill. Actually, I think it's the first kill in the very beginning. Or no, the first kill after the Black Friday sequence. The first real murder, I think, is too cheesy. It's too over the top. And not over the top because of the way that they're killed. Over the top in the way that it was shot with the CG that was used and the cut that they used, the type of cut that they used, I thought was weird. And from kind of that point on through the rest of the movie, I just had kind of this weird vibe that I just didn't care. And that kind of sucked. That one personally hit me just because I really wanted to enjoy Thanksgiving, and I still do. But it's not going to be one that I rewatch every year like I thought it was going to be. I'm still excited for Thanksgiving too. My God, am I excited for it. I'm glad that Eli Roth is back to doing it and that he's taking all of this year to get it right. But that being said, it needs to be a big step up from the first one for me to want to continue with this being a franchise. And oh my God, next up we have Arrival. This is the first time that I had ever seen Arrival from Denis Villeneuve. I was checking out all of his films, or all the films that I had time to check out leading up to Dune Part 2. My God, I can't believe I waited this long to watch Prisoners, or no, not Prisoners, that too, that's coming up. But Arrival I watched on my own, at home. I was fully into it the entire time. Visually, it's gorgeous. Amy Adams, one of the best performances ever in my lifetime. I truly think that. The fact that they built a language, I want to get one of those little words, the ring words, not ringworm, ring words, tattooed at some point. Like I literally would get one of the aliens' symbols tattooed. I think the aspect of time and how they play with that was fantastic. I didn't expect any of that. It's just a film that caught me off guard. And I remember when Arrival came out, I just wasn't interested. I don't know why. It's totally up my alley. I really wish I would have seen it in theaters. It's one of those films where if they do a re-release, which they will eventually, come 2026, 10-year anniversary, they'll probably put it back into theaters, and I will for sure be going. Next up, I'm not going to share my thoughts on this, but I watched Ghostbusters for the very first time. Yes, Ghostbusters for the very first time. I know, that seems crazy for someone like me that is a true cinephile. I'm a film fan. Like, I watch everything that I can, and to have not seen Ghostbusters just was wild to me. So I watched Ghostbusters for the first time on camera. I recorded my entire reaction, and I've got videos coming out where I react to the entire Ghostbusters franchise. So I've seen none of these films. I'm reacting to Ghostbusters 1, 2, Ghostbusters 2016, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and then I'll go see the new one and put out a review for that. But I'm very excited just because it's fun. I'll say now I did enjoy the first one much more than I expected to. Yeah, it's just a fun time. I'm glad that I finally got around to watching Ghostbusters. So stick around. Shortly, that video should be out here in maybe a week or so. Okay, and rolling back to Denis Villeneuve, we got Prisoners, which is another film I totally wish I would have seen in theaters, but honestly, I'm also glad that I waited because this film came out in 2013. I would have been 15 years old. I feel like I wouldn't have appreciated the film as much just because you have to have some sort of relationship with kids in order to really have this film hit. I know that sounds kind of weird if you haven't seen it, but I'm not a parent, but I've got nieces and nephews, and that was enough for me to be just fully ingrained into getting these kids back and murdering the fuck out of whoever took them. It's like I'm already getting heated thinking about it, and it's just a movie, but it's also very, very real. Damn, Paul Dano, dude, he's so good. David Dastmalchian. This is one of those films that I have no idea why it took me so long to watch. It's been, 11 years since it released? I'm glad that I waited just because I was able to watch it in the comfort of my home, and I was screaming at my TV. I was cursing at the TV, being like, fuck you, go get this guy, go murder this guy. Like, I was so invested into Prisoners. If you have not seen it, this is a film that you watch with no distractions whatsoever. You make sure you have your food ready and only pause it when you need to use the restroom. Like, there's no exceptions. This is one of the best films I've ever seen. And after seeing this just Prisoners had proven to me, Prisoners and Arrival back to back like that, just within a couple days, proved to me that Denis Villeneuve is one of the best living filmmakers, and he will for sure go down as one of the best filmmakers of all time. All right, this next one I'm not even going to pronounce. Then we got The Palace of the Arabian Nights, Humorous Phases of Funny Faces, The Hilarious Posters, A Funny Shave, A Sticky Woman, A Trip Down Market Street Before the Fire. Actually, I'll talk about that one a little bit. A Trip Down Market Street is footage, 11-minute footage of just one shot, going down Market Street 4 days before the Great Fire of San Francisco. It is absolutely wild to see what it looked like before and after. It's depressing to see that, but it's a cool piece of history, I thought. At first I was like, man, am I suffering through this 11-minute footage of just driving? Because it's not, it's not a narrative story. It's just simply footage going through town showing what it was like in 1906 in San Francisco. But by the time that I got to the end, and I'm going to spoil that, but by the time that it gets to the end and it shows, the aftermath of the fire, it really kind of upset me. It's a cool piece of history, but disappointing. All right, to finish off the month, we got a couple things left. Next up, I watched Frailty for the very first time. This was another one where I only watched this movie simply so I could hear Cody Leach's review of the film. I am a huge fan of Cody Leach, so Cody, if you're seeing this, hello, thanks for watching. But I am a huge fan of Cody Leach, and I wanted to be prepared for his review of Frailty. I've also had this film on my watch list forever, so it was just time to go see it. Bill Paxton does a fantastic job directing. I'm not going to go into details because this is one of those films that also, if you haven't seen, I would recommend. Ronnie, if you're still there and you listen to this still, thank you. I appreciate you. But I would recommend Frailty. It's got Matthew McConaughey, and it's basically a guy shows up to the FBI headquarters and says, hey, I know who this Zodiac killer is, so to speak. It's not the Zodiac killer, but it's that level of mystery. And I just did not expect the film to end the way that it did. I thought it was really enjoyable. It's not perfect, but it's just a thrill ride through and through. Next up, I watched Stop Motion from this year, 2024. I will say, film aspect, like the actual stop motion animation, really cool and creepy. The acting, all done really well. It just didn't click with me. Didn't fully connect. Not something I'm going to rewatch again. I will say there is a kill that I've never seen done before. It is with a tripod, a camera tripod. So I never seen that done before. Thought that was interesting. I loved a lot of filmmaking aspects of stop motion, but I just didn't love the movie as a whole. But I will say the title card was amazing, and that's actually my favorite title card of the year so far. All right, and then I watched Atlantis, Milo's Return, the sequel to Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and this one is nowhere as good as the original, but it does actually still lead into my theory that Mole is the Underminer from The Incredibles. There's some more evidence as to why that would make sense. So again, I'll put that into a separate video, but I just thought, it was fun making the Mole Underminer theory as far as the actual movie goes. I won't won't rewatch it. I will rewatch Atlantis: The Lost Empire, but I don't think I'll rewatch the sequel. All right, and then we will combine these two to end off the month. I watched Dune and Dune Part 2. Holy shit. I was not the biggest fan of Dune when I first saw it. The first hour of that film really is a bit drawn out for me still, but I think it's necessary after seeing Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 is perfect. It is the first film, but better in every way. That's not a diss to the first film. It's just the first film is building this world up, so that way you can explore it in the second one, and you're understanding where these characters are coming from. I've heard some people say that, Dune is almost impossible to make into movies anyways, because it's such a long story that it could have been told in like a 3-season series. But I haven't read the books, and I haven't seen the original film. I'm just watching Dune as a first come, just watch it, enjoy it, see what it brings, and I have no idea where the story's going to go with Dune Messiah. Like, I don't really want to. I don't want to read any of that. I just want to watch these films as is. But Dune Part 2 has proven to me that this is the Lord of the Rings of this time. We haven't had anything as big, I would say, as Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. I mean, yes, there's the MCU, which had led up to Endgame, which is the closest thing to this. But I don't think there has been a global phenomenon as big as Dune will be comparatively to Lord of the Rings and, like, Star Wars, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense, but it's just amazing. It really is. It's fantasy in a sci-fi landscape. I love it. I did not expect to love it. Yeah. Also, they gave me a Taylor Swift popcorn bucket, so yeah, that was interesting. I'll put a picture up that here or something, but yeah, they gave me a Taylor Swift popcorn bucket for Dune Part 2, so that is also another reason why that theater experience will be very, very memorable for me. I'm not going to forget getting a Taylor Swift popcorn bucket for Dune Part 2. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Dune Part 2 specifically down in the comments below if you guys have seen the film. I don't know if I'm going to do a review for the film, just because I don't know if I would have anything else to say that hasn't already been said by everybody else, because the film's fantastic. But I will end this episode off by just saying Zendaya with a rocket launcher. Go see Dune. Go see Dune Part 2. Zendaya with a rocket launcher. It's cool shit.